cutlass.
Hello, good afternoon, and a warm welcome to today's edition of Democracy and the Rule of Law. My name is Judith Renua. On today's edition of the program, we're taking a cursory look at the by-elections conducted by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in 11 states across the country. It was a case of low turnout, voter apathy, as reported in most states, and also violence recorded in Bayelsa State. We'll also take a look at the judicial panel of inquiries one more time. This is following the suit filed by the Nigeria Police Force, which has now been withdrawn from the court, seeking to challenge the constitutionality of that panel. On that basis, we're taking a look at the panel once more and see if at the end of the day, the recommendations made by this panel will stand in the face of the law. I am not alone in the studio. We have our legal practitioners, as usual, every Sunday to discuss these issues with us. It's nice to have you, Barrister Nicola Wale. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Judith, and good afternoon to all the good people of Nigeria listening to us today.
Thank you. And you're welcome, Barrister Joe Woke. It's nice to have you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Viewers, I greet you all. I wish you all well.
All right. By-elections were held in 11 states across the country, covering 6 senatorial districts and 9 state constituencies, while Lagos and Cross Rivers are the only states where both senatorial and state assembly elections were being conducted. Other 9 states are either holding senatorial or assembly elections. INEC, you recall, had postponed the elections earlier scheduled for the 31st of October following the EndSARS protest and other security and environmental challenges. In Lagos, about 1.1 million registered voters spread across 71 wards, 1,928 polling units, and 188 voting points went to cast their vote in the East senatorial elections, while 280,363 registered voters also were expected to participate in the Koshofe Constituency 2 of the State House of Assembly by-elections. The seat became vacant following the death of the former occupant, Bayo Oshinawo, and Tunji Brimo earlier this year. Also, INEC has declared the Zamfara constituency by-election inconclusive. We'll take a very quick report on the elections which was conducted in Shomolu and Koshofe constituency. I'll be right back to the studio. Do stay with us.
The long-awaited by-election for Lagos East Senatorial Zone came to fore today, though with low turnout. The election, which seeks to replace the vacant seats created, checks by Galaxy Television crew around Folaguru, Bajulaye, Okesono and Bariga area under Shomolu local government area and Ogudu K2, Mile 12, Agility under Koshofe local government area, showed low turnout of voters as INEC officials were seen waiting patiently at most polling units. As at 9:26 a.m., voters were being given hand sanitizer before proceeding to cast their votes. They also have face masks with some control of social distance. Minister of State for Health Olorunimbe Mamora and other respondents who exercised their franchise adjudged the voting process as smooth and seamless, while commending the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC.
During the by-election, the turnout is not same as the general election. So, not unexpected. This is a civic responsibility, and people will just be expected, without any coercion, without any restriction, for them to go and do what they need to do. So, we'll get there.
Voters' apathy has always been the measure of any by-election, generally, even according to the statistics of INEC.
It's a by-election, so you won't expect that kind of crowd when you're having the presidency, the governor, and all the things together.
Nevertheless, there were slight vehicular movements as some businesses, bikes and tricycles had been working without hindrance upon the restrictions imposed. Many attributed this as a reason for the low turnout, while others were indifferent.
The turnout is not encouraging at all. It's rather low. The voting started at 8:30 on the dot, and I think the time is about 10 now. I've recorded less than 20 voters.
We'll be going around campaigning for the people to come and vote. That is their right to come and to vote. And some of them are complaining about the situation of country presently. But we tell them that they should come and vote in order to choose their leader of their choice.
I don't know. We were even talking about it before you people came in. That we don't know. We've not had up to 25 voters today, and it's kind of, it makes everything so boring. We don't know what happened.
Major thing is that the awareness was not enough from the INEC. The INEC, because you can see, unlike before, when we have the election, when there's a restriction, people stayed at home. So, but now, if you look at it, you see people are just going in all about.
So I think they had enough awareness, and we were aware that there'll be election hold on this same day. So I think they just chose not to turn out big time, to come out in mass. And for the restriction, I think, fine, the election is not being held in all Lagos states. So it can't be restricted. You can't restrict movement in all Lagos states because it's not done in all Lagos states. So it was restricted in areas where the elections have to be held.
It is yet to ascertain if this would be a factor to consider at the end of the electoral process. Onyechi Ogu, Galaxy TV News, Lagos.
40, 50.
All right, there you have it. Now, the candidate of the All Progressives Congress APC, Tokunbo Abiru, has emerged winner in the Lagos East senatorial by-election, which held yesterday. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, announced that Abiru polled a total of 89,204 votes to defeat his closest opponent, Babatunde Gbadamosi of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, who polled 11,257 votes, leaving a margin of 77,947 votes. Also, the Independent National Electoral Commission has declared Femi Said of the All Progressives Congress as winner of Saturday's by-election for Koshofe Constituency 2 of the Lagos State House of Assembly. In Yolaoni, INEC Local Government Collation Officer for the by-election in Koshofe declared the result at the Collation Center in Agidi Comprehensive School at Agboyi-Ketu at 5:35 a.m. on Sunday. All right, there you have it. Voter apathy, low turnout, which is quite disappointing, which many respondents described as very, very disappointing. Mad in the by-elections across the 11 states where it was conducted. This begs the question, people's attitude to by-elections, is it something that has come to stay? Because this is a recurring phenomenon.
Yeah, honestly speaking, when you read most of the reports on the print media and then you see footages on the electronic media and all that, you will feel almost depressed that the attitude of the voter to this by-election is nothing to come out about. And it is not peculiar to just Lagos State alone. It cuts across all the states of the Federation. The election was supposed to take place in about 11 states and different constituencies. And I think about 4.5 million or thereabout voters were expected to exercise their franchise and all that. What this tells us is that even if in the general election, if there were no restrictions during the general elections and other, the possibilities that people will be coming out to vote in this country is almost predictable, because the average Nigerian voter has become increasingly disenchanted with this democracy, as it were, because of its inability to deliver whatever promises the politicians have made, whatever dividend they have said they will give us, whatever development that one would have expected to see in the last 20 or 21 years that we have been experimenting with this democracy. So, also, you and I will know that the average Nigerian politician, what he thrives on is buying and selling of votes. Anytime his ability to buy and sell votes becomes a handicap or challenge and all that, he is no longer effective in its game. And you must also add the different challenges that the average Nigerian person is facing. We have the corona pandemic, as it were, which would kind of restrict the elderly people from going out in there to vote. And most times, it is the elderly people who go out in there,
vote, yeah.
and then the women who go out there to vote and all that. With the coronavirus pandemics and all, most of them will be too fearful to go out there and then exercise their franchise. In addition, you also have the economic challenges. Too many people are struggling without to make ends meet, to put 3 square meals on the table, to pay their house rent, to pay their NEPA bill. And also, most of the other bills that the average Nigerian is now contented. We also have seen increases in taxes across board all over the places. Bank charges are also on the rise and what have you. So when people are faced with these kind of challenges and all that, going out there to relay votes, man, is not a priority to them, as it were. Whereas ordinarily it shouldn't be, because it is an opportunity to vote for the candidate that you think is likely to be able to change the predicament in which you have found yourself. And when you say you have this nonchalant attitude to it and all that, you are indirectly saying that the status quo should continue.
Yeah.
And when the status quo remains and all that, it could even continue. It could be the worst for the average Nigerian people. So, also, INEC, just like some of the commentators in there have said and all that, have not been too forthcoming with publicity with regards to these elections and all that. And then besides the APC in Lagos, which we see, and also the APC in Bayelsa State and all that, most of the other political parties who contested this election, we didn't do any serious campaigning. In fact, in a place like Lagos, it was just a one-way traffic thing. It's only the APC senatorial candidate, it's only the APC House of Assembly in Lagos State that to see all over the place who are campaigning and also doing some of the things that ought to be done. So, furthermore, all these things also question the classical notion of democracy, which says it is a government of the people by the people and all that. When you look at this democracy now, and the attitude of the average person to really exercising their franchise, can you still call this democracy a government of the people by the people and all that? It's become a mere circus, a media event, and also a bazaar that goes to the highest bidder, which ordinarily should do. So we require to redefine the concept of democracy, in my humble opinion, if the society will continue to make the required progress that it really deserves to make.
All right, thank you, Barrister Kololi. Now, Barrister Nwokedi, this by-election is coming after we saw major protests in which youths not only wanted an end to police brutality, but they saw that as an opportunity to demand good governance, which you all always on this table insist to start from the grassroots. Now, would you rather say you are disappointed with the youth who should have seen these by-elections as an opportunity to effect, even if it's a change, it is still something? Are you not disappointed?
I would say I am, because I think there was a post that was circulated in some platforms with respect to certain estates in their WhatsApp group. They've been like venting their annoyance, their kind of dissatisfaction over a certain kind of modus operandi in a particular area. So unfortunately, when this by-election came up, only 24 persons from that estate came out to vote.
Imagine.
Then the rest social media warriors. So this is something that we need to let people know. Social media might have effect in terms of information dissemination, but it doesn't go into action. The action is not there. Somebody must go to work. Somebody must take up that job. Like what happened during the time of NSAS. It was a combination of social media and then action that passed the message to the authority that, look, our youths are like, now they've arisen. So what actually happened in this election is quite unsatisfactory. in the sense that we thought that some people will seize the opportunity to make a statement, especially the young ones. It's always been the case that whenever elections are held, we basically see old women and old men being on the queue, taking charge of elections and other things. And they will also witness vote buying more amongst the youths. I can remember a day election of two fine girls, two young pretty ladies, proud, displaying the money they collected and they got, and they say, "Maybe they will have sold it, our votes." And then these are the people that will still go back and then complain about unemployment, complain about bad roads, complain about having no future. But then the process that will ensure the change that will determine that's a good life you want will come up and will not show any interest there. You rather wave everything, discharge everything, wave of hands, and say at them then whatever they want, I'm not interested. It's not going to be the same thing. Yes, it will keep on being the same thing in as much as our behavior remains the same thing. Because I started participating in politics. I've not contested election apart from the one I did in school. But when I was a very younger person, and I knew my influence actually helped a lot. I knew when there was a certain kind of issue that my being there, even as a student, then actually changed one or two things. So we cannot just conclude in our own kind of view or mindset that what is already concluded. Yeah. That man you are building, you are attributing a demigod to. It's a human being like you. Without participating, he wouldn't be that place you are seeing him maybe as a kind of thing God. He because he participated, because he was part of the system, because he brought himself out into the system, and that was how he was able to enter the system, dominated the system, and became what he is. The who said they cannot be the same thing if you get involved. So, and again, there's this mistake we always make. We always focus our energy, like what one of the interviewers there was saying. Yeah. He said, if it is general election, presidential election, and then this election, that will not show interest. But they don't know that the most crucial election, I've said this in one of the media houses that invited me during the senatorial election. The most important election in any country is senatorial election. This representative election, being House of Reps or Senate. Because they control the president.
Exactly.
Look at what happened in the US when there was almost a kind of certainty as regards removal of Donald Trump. It was the upper chamber that made him not to go. Not people of America. Not the opinion, not their will, not their choice. It was the upper chamber that said he's not going to go.
Exactly.
The offense he was alleged to have committed doesn't amount to gross misconduct. We are clamoring on the president to address us. It is the upper chamber, the chamber that will force him to come and address us. They are the ones that will say, if you don't do this, we are going to impeach you. And they have the constitutional right, as enshrined in the Constitution, our own Constitution, to remove him. I can't remove the president. You can't remove the president. We can only talk. So the nature of the people who elect into these offices go a long way to determining the quality of leadership that we are going to get from the upper chambers. And
even the laws, the quality of laws we have.
Yes, the nature of laws we are going to get from them, nature of confirmations. We remember when the other 8 assembly, when they were there, they were seen as opposition, but there were certain things they refused to confirm.
Yeah.
There are some appointments they said they're not going to confirm. And if you carefully looked at all those appointments, they were not prima facie for the good of the country. There are so many bills that were initiated, they said they're not going to pass it. That based on the opinion of the people, the failures on ground, the majority of Nigerians were not comfortable with that bill being passed. If they had passed those bills that time, or at least we have been seeing the negative effect of them now. So this is what you need to know. Getting at the president, nobody gets at the president legitimately. Nobody gets at the president legitimately than the members of the National Assembly. If it is a military, to become a coup. And the world frowns at getting any government changed through coup now. So we cannot do that. If it is by which other means, it might be like an amount of gross misconduct. It's only members of National Assembly that can do that, and it become legitimate. So in a process like this, yet our young people actually impressed us by the way they turned out en masse to protest. Up till now, I still support that protest. Even whether they want to arrest me, I will not change my mind. What they did was within the confines of the Constitution, so within the provisions of the law. They have the right to protest. So anybody trying to call it any name or whatever is just wasting his time. The law backs that action to the fullest. But that action, that zeal, that passion that they displayed in the course of that protest should be redeployed in the participation. The way they resisted money, the way they resisted bribes, the way they resisted external influence, the way they resisted a kind of manipulation during that SARS protest, they should replicate that into their participation in politics. When they will take a kind of take a position that will be uncompromising, that will jettison the influence of the godfathers, jettison the influence of career politicians, jettison the influence of anybody that will want to like change what they want to get from that government. If they can replicate that in elections, I mean, they will get that thing they desire. Because getting people out of government is not a job that can be done with ease. It's something that every available arsenal, every potent tool must be deployed. As far as we are practicing democracy, I said it in one of my media interviews, we must abide by the ethics and ethos and tenets of democracy. And then how do we get a system change in the democratic dispensation? It's through participation.
Yeah.
So that you may convent your anger in any form, you can do whatever you want to do, but that cannot give that result you want. And even if you are close to it, by way of a reaction, by way of a threat or whatever you may do, if certain things are not done well, can things be done well by itself? No. Some people must do that. So the outcome of the level of participation in this election wasn't encouraging at all. Because I believe people are waiting for gubernatorial election. They don't know one thing about politics. If these people that are being elected now, they are becoming strong, they have their own influence, they're already part of a system. And there is an advantage. Before you uproot them, before you uproot the system, you have to uproot all of them. You have to uproot, and that requires a very massive force, with greater force, that will uproot all of them at the same time, because they have their own loyalists. They have their own supporters. They have their own support base. They have their own core people there. So if you don't begin at this stage to uproot all those kind of species of politicians that you don't want to continue dominating the political space in Nigeria, uprooting them even at governorship or presidential election would become a Herculean task. So I urge our youths, please, the level of energy, the level of passion, the level of zeal, the level of commitments displayed during the NSAS protest should be redeployed into participatory democracy.
All right, thank you very much. Let's take a look at Bayelsa, where violence was reported. Violence reportedly mad conduct of the Saturday by-election in Bayelsa West Senatorial District. This was reported in Ekeremo and Sabuama communities, headquarters of Ekeremo and Sabuama local government areas of the state, respectively. Bayelsa State, still the same issues, insecurity and violence during election and even a by-election.
Yeah, honestly speaking, it's a very, very sad development. Before 2015, it used to be one of the most peaceful states when it comes to electionary campaigns and then all the voting processes and what have you. But lately, Bayelsa has been in the news for the wrong reason. People have been unnecessarily attacked, elections disrupted, even people getting killed when the elections are being conducted. And it's a very, very sad development. I suspect that it might not be unconnected with the, how do we describe, a kind of a power equilibrium that we now begin to see between the APC and the PDP in that state. Before then, it used to be a PDP stronghold and all that, with virtually no challenge for many of these other political parties. But lately, there has been a rise in the powers of the APC, and then they're beginning to give the PDP some very, very tough times when it comes to this election. We also must not discountenance the activities of certain dramatic personnel in Bayelsa. With due respect, when you look at the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, you also look at the role Rotimi Amechi also plays in a place like is it Rivers now?
Rivers State.
You might want to attribute some of these developments to some of these politicians, and in the sense that all of them want to show the man at the center that they have influence, that they can deliver their state to the government in power. And they may not be having control over the grassroots with regards to the electorate and all that. And so they want to deploy federal might, they want to deploy money and whatever resources that they have to really capture political power at all costs and all that. So this is an area we must begin to tell these people in power that, look, it is the electorate that should determine who they should vote into offices, and not to say because you're a minister and then you must deliver your constituency at all costs to the center or to the state just because you're a minister. Each time they do that and all that, it always breeds violence, the kind of violence that we begin to see in some of these places. And just like I said, look at the two examples I've given. It is in these places where you have a very strong man at the center, either as minister or something, and then you have the state being controlled by a different political party, that you begin to see this kind of violence. Of course, too, we must not forget the rancor that went with the last general elections in Bayelsa State, in which the APC clearly won the election, but for technical reasons and what have you, they could not assume the responsibility of governance of that state. The average Nigerian person that voted for that political party, and those who contested that election, as well as governor and deputy governor and all, I am sure they will still be feeling cheated, they will still be feeling bitter, and if they have any cause to really vent their anger on those who made that, that subjected them to that kind of, who caused their predicament and all that, they will really readily do it. Again, thirdly, we must also look at the activities and role of the so-called security people, both the police, the DSS, the Federal Road Safety Corps, and what have you, and even the army. Here is a state of about 8 local government, and all that.
The smallest in South.
The smallest in South, very small, in terms of landmass and in terms of population. And then the security people are unable to police that kind of a state where just 2 Senate by-elections are being conducted. And then with all the resources that is usually made available to these security people, honestly, it leaves a very, very sore taste in the mouth. And it tells us that we still have a long way to go when it comes to the security challenges that we are facing in this country. But like I will continue to drum it, if there are security challenges in any part of the country, it is the federal government that which is all responsible for all those security challenges, because they control the executive arm of government, they control the police, they control the army, they control the DSS, virtually all the security apparatus, and the instrument of coercion is in their hands. So if they want to ensure peace in those places, they have the capacity to ensure. Most times they are never interested in ensuring peace because, like I said, they want to capture political power at all costs.
All right, Barrister Nwokedi, your take on the Bayelsa violence?
I think the advice I'll give Bayelsa people, we knew when it went wrong in Bayelsa. It was during the crisis of Tipiere Silva and Jonathan, when Silva believed that he was cheated out of a second tenure to governorship. And then we now started fighting Jonathan. And luckily for him, the opposition party won the presidency. And they rewarded him with a ministerial appointment. Then he now came back to assert his authority. And then Dixon, also being the good boy of Jonathan, took over the home front. And then eventually when the Laonda election came up, I didn't know how kind of savour that relationship between Jonathan and also Dixon ended towards the end of his term. The choice of the current governor that was chosen against Timi Alaibe. I'm just trying to give a fair foundation against Timi Alaibe, Jonathan and Nweke.
The former governor used to be Jonathan's boy.
All the other people, parties still was within the South region, actually wanted to take over from Dixon, but Dixon preferred this other man. And then from there, Jonathan became a kind of cold towards his support to PDP in that state in particular, because of the person that actually took over and all that. And eventually APC won. And there was allegation that Jonathan somehow subtly, with his mother, whatever, worked for APC candidates there. So that actually caused a very big imbalance. In fact, that actually gave APC a kind of, put them ahead of PDP in that state. So as fate might have it, the Supreme Court actually, judgment there, launched PDP back into the head of affairs of the states. So like my own colleague has said, so it's just like a battle of vendetta, battle of who is who. And then the Tipere Silva is a very strong man in this present administration. But then he's not the only one that was rewarded with ministerial appointments. But Rivers and that Bayelsa state, two of them are like something else. We have to be very, very frank. Yeah. I'm from Anambra State. Chris Ngige is also a strong minister. He's Minister of Labour. But he doesn't disturb in any election in the states. You can't even see him in his hometown when there's election day. I mean, he faces his work there and then everything about his job. Doesn't interfere in any election that has to do with any election in the states there. There are some other strong ministers that actually, because he also worked for Buhari, even when Jonathan was going for president. He was part of people that actually stood for Buhari for death and life. I remember he was going all over the whole Southeast praising Buhari then, which was seen as a taboo. But he was, yes, he was seen as a taboo. He was better rewarded. So what I'm saying is that making your home state as a theater of war because you want to satisfy the person at the top is something very, very, I mean, unwise. You don't just do that. Use your strength to know what you can do. If by your strength and by the love you have, by the loyalty you have within the state, you're able to deliver your state, good. If that cannot give you what you want legitimately, don't go and destroy your state. Don't go and kill people. Don't go and breed terrorists, breed bad boys. Because at the end of the day, they will come back to terrorize the states. If you keep them with guns, you keep them with charms and every other thing, they're like Frankenstein monsters. They can go for that war with you at that period because you have a place you tell them to go. By the time elections are over, they still have all those charms and all those weapons around them, or they will have known how to use them. So they can still use them for some other mischievous purposes, which will not be for the good of the state. So if anybody professes to love his state, that person should allow the will of people to prevail. You make your attempts, you try your best, you campaign, you convince people, you talk to them. You say your manifesto that of their party, you make promises, which has been like what our politicians are known for. They can build an Eldorado in the air during an election. They can promise you. There's no, I can say Nigerian politicians are the best in terms of making promises during an election. And they make it look so real that if you're not, if you don't know their attitude, you might fall for it. No matter however they might have disappointed, once they repackage their promise again and come back, the electorate will still fall for it. So go and repackage your promise and talk to people. Whatever is within the confines of the law for you to do that. But to equip people to begin to fight, to begin to destroy things, to begin to destroy their lives. Because I'm sure they don't have their children participating in that riot, in that killings. So why are you not using somebody's children? And I know most of them did not come from rich homes. Most of them did not come from this kind of colonial ministers that made them what they are. If those people that have used them and they died, would they have become what they are now? Exactly. If they have been used as thugs and they equipped and killed and they exposed to all these kind of dangerous conditions, would they have gotten to where they are? So all these people they regard as a nobody can also become somebody tomorrow. So you don't look down on any human being or use any human for a job that might expose him to death, to kind of a serious injury, to kind of a lifestyle that will live to haunt him throughout his life. So Bayelsa people should please rejig their system of politics. Let them, the other states that are volatile like that. You saw what happened in Edo. Yes. Edo was even, I will have heightened tension there. But they play to order. And at the end of the day,
of many Nigerians,
and then at the end of the day, everybody applauded the Edo people. And whenever I see them, I appreciate them. Well, it goes to show the type of people your people are. It doesn't stop at that election. If you become so violent and so rough and whatever, by the time people will see anybody from that your state, as anywhere, he will look at that people and live with that people what's going on in your state. So it's not all about winning political office. It's about projecting the image of your people. State, So if you project your people as violent people, uncontrollable people that cannot control their face, people that cannot take care of their destiny, people will see them. I mean, I might even see somebody from that place looking for that. Say, these people from Bayelsa, that people always fight during election. Are you sure these people can they even control it? I don't think I need somebody from there. You may not know it was because of what I read in the papers concerning your election that made my mind not to allow that, admit somebody from that place. So they should know that it's not just about election. It's about the image of that state in particular.
And they can do better.
They can do better.
All right. INEC has now declared Zamfara constituency by-election conducted in Bakura constituency as inconclusive. The returning officer, Professor Ibrahim Magawata, told journalists that the election result of 5 polling units in Bukura ward have been cancelled. The affected units, according to Professor Magawata, have a total number of 11,429 votes. He announced that the PDP candidate Ibrahim Tudu scored a total of 18,645 votes, while the APC candidate Bello Dankade Gamji polled 16,464 votes. New date for the conclusion of the election in the affected polling units will be announced later, according to INEC. Meanwhile, 2 ad hoc staff of the commission have been declared missing and their whereabouts still unknown as at the time of this report. Quite unfortunate. And also in Bayelsa State, some officers were reported to have drowned in the southern Ijo River. They were on their way to their place of assignment when their boat capsized. As at the last time I read the update, at least 3 personnel of the Nigerian Police Force were reported to have drowned on Friday, and they're yet to ascertain the total number of police officers involved in that incident. It hurts when you hear people lose their lives, you know, in a bid to carry out their assignments, especially during elections. I don't know how soon we can just fix all these issues to ensure elections are as smooth as possible. It should be a seamless process. We saw what happened in the United States of America. We can do it. We can, all other African states. All right.
Of course, even in nearby Ghana here and Togo, you find out that elections are conducted in a very seamless manner. That even most times the electoral officers are allowed to take the voting materials to their home 24 hours before the elections, and then on the day of the election, they take them to their respective polling booths for the elections to be concluded. Unlike here, where we put in the central bank and then you deploy soldiers, you deploy Navy and Air Force to go and guide simple electoral material before elections are conducted. All this tells about the mindset of the average Nigerian politician and the Nigerian airline. These do or die affairs to politics. And it is like that because it is one of the most juiciest jobs in the land. So to say now, if you were to reduce the salaries and allowances of a politician to that of civil servant, I am sure the kind of challenges that we are seeing now will be drastically reduced. Most of them will run away from politics. Now to Zamfara, let's even thank God. Initially, when they say elections are going to be held in that place, I was very, very apprehensive, especially with the level of banditry, with the level of kidnapping and insecurity that have been prevalent in that area. The Bakura you mentioned that is the home of Ahmed Yerima, the former governor of that place. I think that was also where there was this epic battle within the APC that made the APC lose the election to the PDP, also on a very, very technical ground. And when you see the result of the election that we have just called now, they are almost neck to neck. In time, one 18,000 and then another one 60,000. And the returning officer is just being faithful with the electoral, which says if the number of votes that are cancelled, it's higher than the margin of victory. Exactly, then you have to wait before you declare a winner to conduct elections in some of the places that are cancelled. Very pathetically, just like you said, in this kind of age, time, and the technology that's available to really provide security, we shouldn't be seeing security men getting missing in the line of duty. We shouldn't be seeing our children who are participating as adult staff in elections getting missing. For what purpose? For what purpose? Because good Lord Jonathan has given us a very good mantra, a very good example that there's nobody's blood that is worth the ambition of any other person. That is the word of a statesman, and that is what one will expect to hear and see. Because when you look at those who are playing politics today in Nigeria today, would you describe them as illiterate compared to those who participated in politics in the First Republic and then the Second Republic? Most of them are graduates and all that. Somebody like Ahmed Yerima that I mentioned, I think had the first class in economics, and he had worked in the central bank before and all that. The man who is in there now too is also well educated. Most of them are medical doctors, lawyers, and what have you. So you expect exemplary behavior from these people, but we are not getting it. And like I said, we are not getting it simply because the stakes is too high. The reward system is not comparable to any other business that you can do in this part of the world. So let's also, in rounding up, appeal to the security people and the law enforcement agencies and all that. Each time there's an election in a tiny environment, in a very small space, such as Zamfara, such as this other place and all that, they should be able to police and ensure that no life is lost in the process, because the loss of the life of one single individual diminishes the rest of us. See what the American people did. Just one person was kidnapped and brought to Nigeria, and they deployed all the machineries of the state to rescue that person. So we expect the Nigerian security people to deploy all available resources to make sure that all these people that are missing are brought back home safely.
All right, very well. You're still watching Democracy and the Rule of Law. We'll take a very quick break. I'll be right back. Do stay with us. Alrighty, welcome back, and if you're just joining us, this is Democracy and the Rule of Law. We'll now take a look at what happened during the week when, though the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, has disowned the suit challenging the legality of the state judicial panels of inquiry investigating allegations against officers of the defunct Special Anti-Robbery Squad. He has also directed an immediate investigation into the lawsuit and alleged role of the Force Legal Section, including its head, CP Tuesday Asayamo. The IG also expressed the disapproval of the Force Management team on the matter. You recall that the police had in a suit number FHC ABJ CS 1492-2020 filed before the Federal High Court Abuja sought to squash the panels across all states, describing them as unconstitutional. Police lawyers led by Oyetola Atoyebi SCN said state had no part to hear allegations of wrongdoings against police officers, noting that only the Nigeria Police Force could handle personal issues. The force also went ahead to describe the probe as a violation of the provisions of Section 241, subsection 1, 2A, and Item 45, Part 1, First Schedule, 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, and Section 21 of the Tribunals of Inquiry Act, Cap T 21, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004. Though the force spokesman, the CP Frank Omba, in a statement on Thursday disclosed that the force management did not authorize the legal challenge. That aside, but Barrister Okedi, when you heard of that particular move by the police to actually squash these judicial panels of inquiry, what came to your mind?
It was very, very unfortunate. I was even trying to know whether it was a fake news. Because when I heard about it, I said, on what ground, you know? So when it was later validated as an action that proceeded from the legal department of Nigerian police, I was wondering who gave them that kind of advice and why. You know, but in law, we always gamble it. Sometimes we say, let us go and gamble it. So I believe they wanted to gamble it. But there are issues that we may see in law, that we may look at it and then discover that a course of action might not have arisen. We might hold on to like something that looked like a course of action, or rely on one or two sections, or one or two cases that might not be completely related to the matter in issue, just for us to go to court and then test the ability of the judge, the knowledge of the judge, and then the capacity of the lawyer on the other side. Whether the lawyer on the other side will be yes, will be smart enough to smoke out all that our trick. So I believe that was what police officers wanted to do, because one, what is their contention? The police is a federal establishment. It's only, you know, it's not within the powers of the states to any states to look into the activities of the police, because it's a federal establishment. It's not under the control of a state. Do you understand my point?
Yeah.
Now? It's under the control of the state. So no states, no state apparatus may be empowered, you know, to look into activities of police against Nigerian people, against Nigerian people. So now looking at that argument, I look at it, how can this argument even come up in the first place? There are so many other provisions of the Constitution that empowers anybody to even challenge the activities of the police. Anybody. Because if you go to section 46 of the Constitution, it says anybody who feels that his right has been violated, is about to be violated, should approach the court for redress. Anybody, including even the states. People don't, sometimes, there's a way people look at the provisions of the Constitution. When you see any place saying anybody, that means any authority, any human being, any person can actually use that section of the Constitution. Now, a state governor is the chief security officer of the state. And what if police might be like a federal establishment, so to say. But they work in the states. They have the activities in the states. They relate with people in the states. They relate with Nigerian citizens. Now, are they now saying that the local standing is only on the police? It's only on the police that will determine who has the local standing. They are the ones that will now determine where their matter will go. When the matter is not within police and police. Are you following my arguments now? This matter is not between a police officer and another police officer. This matter is a police officer and the other citizens of Nigeria. You are now subjecting other citizens of Nigeria to a law that ought to guide only you. Even if there should be like an exclusive law that will restrict the powers of the state to institute any panel to investigate. It might be a matter between police officers and police officers. Maybe a gross misconduct committed by a police officer in his service as a police officer within the police unit. Just the way we have the court martial laws between military and military. Although it's still court might still have jurisdiction after the appeal can still be brought to court. Because there is no, so what, for the fact that action of the police also affected other citizens of Nigeria that are members of a state, you are now saying a state doesn't have the power to set up a panel of inquiry to look into the unlawfulness, illegality of your own action against our own people. Against our own people, not your own people. So I thank God that the IG of police, and I was even wondering why a legal department will institute an action without the knowledge of the IG of police. I've worked with legal departments. I've worked at Attorney General's office. I have so many matters we're doing with them. Certain files, for a file to proceed from office of the OC legal or AC legal, it must be referred to from investigating departments. There must be a unit that will have investigated that matter and then forward it to Office of Legal Department for advice. Office of Legal Department will look into the merits or the merits of issues raised in that matter to know whether it warrants taking legal action or proceeding to court. Even if it's your fundamental right, we mostly file. When we file it, we must accuse a certain department at the police force of violating or contravening the provisions of the Constitution with respect to the rights of Nigerian citizens. That file will now be transferred to legal department to look at it and advise the authority appropriately for action. If at the end of the day, after perusing through the contents of the issue, then I said, okay, they can take it up, look at what you've done. Or the Commissioner of Police or the AIG or whichever unit or lab, they will ask, okay, go ahead and go to court, approve it. But now, this is something that the police force legal department initiated on their own, decided on their own to go to court to quash investigation of police officers, not even legal departments, not even their, because they have legal department and they have lawyers working in their legal department, of nominal police officers that are supposed to be controlled by the IG of police under regulation by Police Service Commission. So it is very, very pathetic. I thank God that IG intervened and ordered that the matter will be withdrawn, because it's a very, very ridiculous attempt to do that, because they are trying to let Nigerians believe they don't want people to know what really transpired and what they have done. Are they ashamed of that? Nobody is condemning the whole Nigerian police. I have so many police officers as friends. They are my friends. It's just some officers. Bad eggs within the police. And it's beginning to share these bad eggs. That is when we now believe that you actually authorized their actions.
All right. Thank you, Barrister Kolawole.
Wait, honestly speaking, the denouncement of the IG of police should be taken with a pinch of salt. Just like my friend has said, it's difficult, if not impossible, for any OC legal to go to court with that kind of a writ without some approvals from or sanctions from the higher echelons of the Nigerian police. And I'm not surprised. When you look at all the panels of inquiry that are going on all over the Federation, the general complaint that we have been getting from all the places that the police have been using delay tactics to frustrate all the procedures that have been taking place in most of these panels of inquiry all over the state. So it is the refusal of most of the people presiding over those panels of inquiry to get the police to truncate what is transpiring in those places that may have now made the police to want to go to court to scuttle the entire process. And like he said, it's a very, very shameful thing. Also, too, you will recollect not too long ago, an agency of, the police, an agency of the federal government, especially of the executive arm of government, and the executive arm of government instituted a panel of inquiry to do certain things. And then another agency within that executive arm of government is now going to court to challenge what the executive arm of government and the federal government has said should be done. Shows you that there's a problem somewhere. And it wouldn't be the first time the Police Affairs Commission or whatever too had in the past gone to court with the IG of police over recruitment of police. Isn't it? Also, not too long ago, an agency of the federal government, which is the National Human Rights Commission, indicted some police officers, made recommendations and sent their report to the Attorney General of the Federation for the prosecution of certain police officers. What did the Attorney General of the Federation do? He returned the report to the National Human Rights Commission and said there was no sufficient evidence to prosecute the indicted police officers. So it is a trend that we are seeing, that these people are not ready to resolve this police brutality in the way and manner it ought to be resolved. They are just finding for an escape route to get out of this quagmire. And it is very, very sad that they will be towing this path. Why do I say this? Just last week, a woman raised an alarm in Suba, which is close to Abuja, that a DPO that had just been posted to the Suba police stations and order recruited some Fulani men and then some police officers, and then they started raiding the homes in the nearby in the Suba area, entering the homes of people through the roof and order, and then taking people away and then handing them over to some Fulani men that they have stationed in their vehicle for possible kidnapping and what have you. Somehow, unfortunately for the DPO and all that, the woman and her husband were courageous enough to raise an alarm and all that. And then the people in the neighborhood rally around them and all that. And then it got to a stage in which they had to go and confront the DPO. The DPO started apologizing that he didn't send them on that kind of an error. This is to say that certain bad eggs within the police who are giving the police a bad name, the Nigerian police force is not ready to uproot those bad eggs from its midst.
They just condemn.
They are not ready.
And protect them.
Not too long ago, the whole Court of Appeal Justice in Edo State said it was a police people who kidnapped. You kidnapped her. And if you also look at the modus operandi of kidnapping that are taking place in this part of the world today, or in this part of the country, you will find out that people who have no training in security will hardly be able to carry out something. Some policemen, about 12 of them are said to be going on some operation. Those policemen have been kidnapped. And then they are yet to be seen. Even though the police is not talking about them. For God's sake, let's talk to the Nigerian police. Even the children of police have been victims of police brutality in the past. Right. So this is the thing that will benefit everybody, and the Nigerian police should please let us see to the root of this thing for the benefit of the society. The way and manner in which they used to govern is gone forever. Let them realize it. Look at what is happening in France today. If you have been watching the television, massive demonstration taking place. The era of the impunity is gone. The era of impunity is gone. People will end up at the International Criminal Court.
We should just allow the judicial
exactly as civilized people. As civilized people.
Of everybody.
Yes.
As civilized people.
And then for them to also prove to the Nigerian people that they never supported
the activities
and abuses of some of their officers.
Very well then. All right, now this is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of Democracy and the Rule of Law. Thank you, Barrister Tunde Kolawole and Barrister Joe Mukedi for coming on the show. Yeah. All right, my name is Judith Renwa. Good afternoon and have a great week ahead.